Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of the Action Movie Guys podcast, episode 387. We're up to the third sequel in the Once Upon a Time in China Jet Li franchise. This film is from 1993. I'm your host, Alex Figueroa. My co-host is
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
All right, Nate. So far, how do you think these movies have been?
Man, so far, so good. I have enjoyed the first two. I thought they were both really good. This reminds me of when we did Police Story, where I was like, dang, this first movie is really good. The second movie, not quite as good, but still really good. And the third movie was amazing. And the fourth one was kind of like, whatever. But still, this is off to that same start. Like the first movie was great. The second movie was also great. And now I was looking forward to watching this third one. So yeah, so far, I've been enjoying this one.
Yeah, I've been liking this one. I can't wait to talk about the third one. Very different from the first two movies in terms of storyline and everything around.
Yes.
It was different, which it's pretty interesting on the third sequel of a franchise. So with that said, financially, this movie made 27 million Hong Kong bucks. I don't know what that translates in terms of currency in the United States, but that's how much it made. Awards, it only got nominated for one, but never won. But that's what I got from my side. Nate, what did the audience and critics have to say about this film?
Okay, well, we're taking a little bit of a tumble here with this one. Those first two movies were tremendously high, both like 90s and 80s and stuff like that. This one, we're taking a dip. The audience score is actually down 16% to 69%. So it's still fresh by their standards, but it did take a little bit of a dive. So nearly 70. But the critic score is down 30% from a 93 down to a 63. So again, they're both still in the fresh category because they're over 60, but not as good as the 93 and 85 from the last movie. So a little bit of a tumble there.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
I don't know if these are the worst in the series. I don't know. But if they are, they're still fresh on one hand, but it's a big drop.
It's a very big drop. And I want to see the numbers with the one that doesn't have Jet Li in it. Does that dip?
He's not in part 4.
Okay, so let's see if that number's super duper drop or does it go higher?
It goes up. Like, we don't need Jet Li.
We don't need Jet Li. We don't need Master Wong on this one. Okay, well, with that said, let's get right into it. Lead character, Jet Li's back.
Okay, he is back. Now, I gave him a 5 in both the first two. I struggled with, I'm going to tell you guys up front right now, I struggled with this movie in general with my scores. I was like, I don't know how I feel about a lot of things about it. I ended up giving him a 4 in this one. Okay, hear me out. I feel like the first two movies, he was amazing in the first movie. And then I feel like the second movie, he was still amazing, but then they added the love story, like, aspect to it that gave him a little bit more character. This time, it's almost all about him and the girl, right? And which is fine, but it was kind of weird. Like, it's very this one is more comedic even than the first two. Like, this movie's goofy. I'm just gonna come out and say it right now. This is like a really goofy movie. I don't know what was going on here, but I don't know. I don't think, his dad is there and they don't really make any big deal about, I thought maybe they were gonna do something like the dad, and nope, not really. He's just an old guy and he just wants him to get married, which is cool. I don't mind. It doesn't have to be conflict, but there was also not like, his dad doesn't really do anything. He's just an old guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And other than that, he doesn't have any moments like he does in those first two movies where it's like, that's, he's that guy. It's more like, oh, he's him. Let's don't fight him or do fight him or whatever. I don't know. Not as good. I gave him a 4.
All right. So I was torn. I agree with you. This one was different for like that's why I said in the opening of this podcast, I was like, it felt different in all levels from the first two movies. I like the character. I thought he was good. Fong is back. I think he's funny as hell. I love that character. I don't know why. He is a funny character. Like him a lot. I like his girlfriend, 13 Aunt. I think she's cool, cute. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But Jet Li, they tweaked my man Jet Li. They made him a little bit comical. Whereas the first two movies, Jet Li wasn't comical. He had a similar, he didn't have it, but he was trying to be serious because he's like that master. And then he always did something to be a little bit goofy, like a Jackie Chan-ish. And I was like, oh, okay. This one, they changed that attitude. And I wasn't with it. And I was just like, I didn't like it as much because I like the seriousness. And then he'll sometimes be a little goofy towards Fong or the situation that's in front of it. So yeah, I agree. I gave it a 4. I do agree. I had to drop a point because I didn't feel like it was the same character. I felt like they dumbed him down a little bit. So yeah, I agree with that. Okay, main villain. Now I'm a little confused because this movie had a lot of rogue agents from the Brits. And there's another British
Russian guy.
I mean Russians that look like Triple H.
That other guy that I don't even know what he does.
Yeah,
like I didn't understand what
this movie
he was doing. Okay,
yeah.
He was the Russian who had a crush on 13th Aunt and gave her the camera, but was also plotting to assassinate the Chinese queen lady.
Head guy, yeah.
So he was one villain, and then the other one, I actually don't know. He was a guy that was bald, and he was like the leader of something. I gave it a 2. I gave the villain the 2 here. This is the first big drop in this franchise. The first 2 movies had clear villains. They were clearly defined, and you know what they were doing. This one, you know what the Russian guy's doing, but he's also good. Most of he helps her. He fixes the steam engine. He don't really got a problem with Jet Li. He just is part of this Russian group that wants to kill the queen. And then the other, I still don't know what that other guy was doing. I don't know what I don't know what his goal was. He was apparently the leader of some clan. What did that clan do? I don't know. It's not like in the second movie where those guys were like a religious group and they were trying to extort people for money and they were trying to, enforce their power over. I know what they were doing. I don't know what these guys were doing. They're just running around with dragon heads. I don't know. I gave it a 2. I could have gave it a 1, to be honest with you, but at least the only reason I gave it a 2 is because I know what one of the villains was doing. That other guy, I have no idea. But even if I knew, I don't think I'd go above. I didn't like him. He was goofy. And the only part, he's all wimpy. And then Jet Li's like, be careful. He knows Kung Fu. And then he gets up and starts fighting all of a sudden. And I'm like, but this guy's a punk. I don't know. I didn't like, this is one of my least favorite aspects of this movie, too.
Okay. It's really hard because this falls in the territory of we're reading these movies. So I don't know what the hell is going on between characters. I do understand what the movie was trying to tell us or where it was going, but it's really hard to put 2 to 2. It's like chewing gum and walking at the same time for some people. This was really, really difficult. I had a difficult time with this movie than the other 2. I gave this a 1 in terms of villains. And I know, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be really straight up with you guys. There are villains in this movie. There are villains. Jet Li fights a lot of people in this movie. There's a lot of fighting in this movie. I just don't know where the villains are at. I don't know. They're fighting under lion heads. They're dancing in the street. They're fighting in the street. I don't know who's who under these damn things. You have Hunter Helmsley, freaking character, the Russian diplomat guy. He's in love with 13 Aunt. Jet Li's getting jealous. He's getting angry. Then you have, at the other side, you got the head of this clan that needs to win the Lions tournament. I think it's a Lions tournament, isn't it?
Tournament.
The Lion King's tournament, when they put everyone has different lion heads and they have to march through the streets, and whoever gets first and gets this amulet are the winner. Yeah. Honestly, I think Nate could attest to this. It's confusing. I don't know who's what. In the beginning, you do, right? When they go up to the father's store for the lion head and they pick on them, they fight. I was like, okay, cool. But I really don't know. That's why I gave it a 1. I don't know who the villain is. And it's very hard to depict it when you have tons of characters fighting each other and you don't know why as much because you're reading and you don't even know how accurate the damn thing is when you're reading it. So I gave it a 1. Not even to be bad, but it didn't work for me. And I bet it does work, but it didn't come across to me when I'm reading and watching it. Action scenes.
All right. Okay. This, you mentioned it. It does have plenty of fighting in it. But again, this is one I struggle with because I'm like, some of it's really good and some of it I did not like. I liked I thought the fight with the clubfoot guy was pretty fun where he's fighting them in that room. Even when he's climbing backwards up the wall, with his feet up in, I thought that was neat. I mean, yeah, it's unrealistic, but at this point, it seems like it fits in these movies. You know what I mean? I liked him. I thought he was cool. I like the way he fights. It's he's like an animal. He's just crazy, whatever. My problem is a lot of I hated the big finale of this movie where they're all under the lion heads and they're horrible. I could not get into it at all. I don't know who's who. I don't know who's good or bad. Then you're trying to watch this stuff and keep up with the storyline while trying to read all the stuff. It was horrible. I really hated the end of this movie. Other than that, you get a lot of just silly stuff. I did not like the fight where they put the oil on the floor and Jet Li's slipping around and these guys come out with the spiked shoes. It reminded me of that scene in The Transporter where he spills the oil on the floor and then he puts the bicycle things. Remember? He puts the bicycle thing.
For grip.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was shorter. This is like a cartoon. This movie's like a cartoon. I don't know. It has like goofy sound effects, all this weird stuff. Also a different fight coordinator. So even more over the top than the first two. Like people be flying in the air and doing these like kicks for like 15 seconds flying in the air. And I don't know. That said, there is still a lot of good and there is still a lot. So I dropped it 1 point to a 4, but I definitely wasn't giving it a 5. I struggled between 3 and 4. I landed on a soft 4.
You know, I see that we're gonna be both in the same way here. Yeah, because I gave it a 4 also. I wasn't too thrilled with the guy going back up the wall. I don't mind it. Again, I'm okay with it. Like you said, it's part of that world. I'm okay with wire work. I love wire work. If it works in the film and it fits in that universe, I'm okay with it. It just got too goofy. Like he's literally going up a wall backwards, fighting, kicking. And I was just like, okay. When he did it on the floor, I thought it worked because he looked like a zombie fighting. Yeah. So kind of like, it looked really dope, like a zombie stance or whatever you want to call it. But when he went up on the air and started fighting, I said, no. It's like, no freaking way. Jet Li is amazing in this movie. The scene with the shirt, that he takes his shirt off and he's running through all of them and he's telling them to stop with they all fighting with swords and he's running and he's blocking all of them with the shit. I was like, yo, this scene is dope. I was like, and it was a long sequence. I was like, holy crap. You're right. The restaurant scene, I liked it for what it was. And I thought he was going to take their spikes and then start, wailing on them, but he didn't. The scene, the joint that he glided across the floor and he to do that. I was like, this is so stupid. Yeah. That's the reason why I put this to a point. And I agree with you. It's convoluted throughout the last third. I did not know what the hell. They were going up this mountain up this wooden tower, and everyone's cutting it down. And I'm like, what's the point of this? And they're fighting on the sticks. And then everyone has lion heads and they kick the lion heads and you hear, I was like, but you just kicked the head. Like, why is the guy getting hurt? Like, it's just so funny stuff throughout the whole thing. But it doesn't take away. Jet Li is a fantastic martial artist, man. Like, one thing I take away from all these things is that Jet Li is he's super fast. Even when they're showing the camera, when she's recording and he's doing his stance and he's mad, his father was like, wow, you're fast. Yeah. Because he's like doing his super. So I agree. And you know what? One thing this movie did in the beginning, and I thought it was going to go down this route of revenge. When they beat the father, like they beat his ass in the store and they trashed it, and he walked in and I was like, oh, that's his dad. Like, they're done. And they didn't, that wasn't the storyline. It was this whole Lion King tournament thing. I was just like, I was like, that was a letdown. Huh?
We'll get to it in the story. The Lion King tournament. I don't understand it.
I didn't understand it either. I think it was like, who's the best clan of the village or something like that. But it was like, it's weird that you're walking down and they're still stabbing each other and fighting. I was like, what is this thing? But yeah, I agree with you. Anyway, 4 across the board here. Okay, storyline.
All right. Well, let's talk about it because I don't understand. At the beginning, you got the old lady and the guy, and they're talking about, let's have a kung fu tournament. I thought this movie was going to be a tournament movie. And
that's what I thought.
Baby, this is going to be really good.
Yeah.
I thought Food was going to enter it and like lose, but try his best. And that this guy was going to win it against some rival. Cool. I thought Clubfoot, they were building up to like, oh, Clubfoot, he's going to be like the representative for that team, whatever. The tournament is actually apparently all these people running around in lion heads, which by the way look like dragons. I don't know, they call them lions. And they it's like 2 or 3 people. You ever seen like I'm trying to describe for the people listening. Mm-hmm. You ever see like a movie or cartoon where there's like 3 people in a horse suit and one of them's the end of the horse and one of them's the beginning of the horse? It's kind of like that, but with a dragon. And so the tournament, from my knowledge, is they got to run through the city or something, and then they got to climb this structure that looks like the Punjabi prison from WWE. It's a Punjabi prison match, and they got to climb up and grab this medallion. And I'm like, that's way less cool than a tournament, like a fight tournament.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. I also don't understand what the goal was. Like, why? Why do you want to win this? What do you get? What? I don't understand. Then again, there's this convoluted plot about the Russians wanting to kill them, but it's super undercooked. I didn't like the story in this movie. I didn't know what was going on most of the time. The only thing I could really relate to was Jet Li and 13th Aunt trying to, falling in love more and like basically telling people because they already loved each other, but nobody really knew. And even at that moment where they hug each other and everyone's like, what the heck? Like, what are they,
that was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. As far as the comedy goes, Foon is awesome. He's hilarious. I did like when they were watching the movie and they were all like this. And they couldn't stop doing it.
Yeah.
And then Foon puts his head straight and then Jet Li says, come on, be serious. And then he puts his head back, like he puts it back the other way. Like that was funny. So I did laugh at some of the parts, but I did not like this. I gave it a 2. I had a hard time getting into it, to be honest.
You're not alone. I gave it a 2 also. It's a 2. I agree. I was not engaged in this one. It has some funny moments. Again, there's a lot of, Foon is my favorite MVP of this franchise. He is hilarious. And I do like 13 Aunt here too. She is funny.
Like
remember the scene that she goes, I love you. She's teaching him to say I love you. And then he tells everyone and everyone's like, I love you.
Hey, when you come in the room, you got to say I love you. That was funny.
And then Fonz says, and she goes, no, I don't want to hear it.
No, shut up. Or when he's like, tell me something I could use every day. And she says, help. He's like, why would I ever ask for help?
I could do everything myself.
That scene was funny.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they have some, it's a funny franchise in terms of like the way they wrote these characters. Some stuff are funny.
Yeah.
It lands.
It has good comedy for
does.
an action franchise.
It does. Especially when Jet Li for the first time is on the video camera and Foon is like, action! And then he looks stuff and then he's making fun of him and he got mad.
He's like, yeah, what do I do? He's like, no, that means you gotta move. You gotta do this or whatever.
That was funny stuff. Or when he put the swords behind him because they wanted to fight to get revenge. He told him what to do position. Yes.
No, the best line though, the best line is when the dad he's talking with his dad about getting married to 13th Aunt, and then the dad's like, he's gonna be my brother-in-law. My son's gonna be my brother-in-law. I was like, wait, but that's not his real aunt. I thought it was like but still he's like, he will become my brother-in-law. That was funny.
And I thought it was funny when he laughed when he called him 13th Aunt and he just started laughing. I thought that was funny. But anyway, you got good moments like this in the movie that you just laugh and it's really fun. But then you got other stuff like you got the Russians learning Chinese and they're talking straight Chinese to these people. I mean, well, to 13th Aunt and Jet Li, and I'm like, okay, I guess. But there's always this foreign thing in these movies that they're trying to assassinate or trying to do something bad against the Chinese people to take over or whatever. Yeah, so I didn't like that storyline at all. I didn't think it worked for me. I didn't like the tournament. I agree with you. I thought it was going to be a tournament, and I thought Fong was going to sign up a Jet Li's character and then bet. So he knows he's gonna win. Yeah. So as a goofy thing, or he'll enter and gets his butt whooped real bad and then he joins. But yeah, I didn't like it. I did not like the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't as bad. I thought it was a good movie, solid. But I agree. I gave it a 2 for storyline. All right, what you got for overall?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. In that, I don't think this is a horrible movie. I ended up giving it a 3. I think it's fine. Like it's good. It's still like well directed. There's some shots in here that are really nice. And this one actually looked really good too. Like the Blu-ray was great looking. There's some good cinematography and stuff, but it's way more goofy than the first two. And the first two, I would say, are not goofy. They are funny, but they're not goofy. And this one was goofy. There's like a lot of like slapstick. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. This is the most confusing. There were moments in the first two where I was a little confused, but then you catch on. And this one, the whole time, all the way till the end, I was like, I don't know. I still don't know really what's going on. I think it also it doesn't help either for us, like American audiences. It's sometimes tough when they all have like the Chinese names and it's hard to remember which one is which.
Yeah.
There's one thing if someone's like named Kevin, that's Kevin, because I speak English. But when it's like Bai Ling and Wei Fong, and it's like, I don't remember which one of those. And plus you have to read it. So you're not even really hearing them say it. I don't know. Also, why were all the lines dubbed? Jet Li, it seemed like he's not even talking in this movie. It's always like, the whole thing was like dubbed over. It's weird though. Like, I don't know. I gave it a 3. I think it's okay, but it's definitely my least favorite of the 3 so far.
I gave it a 3 also overall. I enjoyed it for what it was, like I told you. you, I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was fun. But in terms of like sitting there as an actual movie, did I understand? No, I did not. I thought this was the most confusing, like you said. Out of the two movies that we saw prior, I could follow along and understand a little bit what the hell's going on. Like the first one, it has to do with the slavery to the British people, right? They gave the girls, and he's in the middle of that. And then the second movie was something crazy. Was the Ghost of the White Lotus clan, and
they were
that
awesome.
They were pretty good. Now this one has to do with assassination plus a tournament that we got mind fucked thinking that it was actually going to be like a blood sport type tournament, but it wasn't. So kind of sucked. I was looking forward to the actual tournament of it. So I did give it a 3 on that. I did enjoy it for what it was. All right, your total point.
Okay, total for me is a 15 out of a 25. I mean, could have been worse, but definitely nowhere near the 22s that I gave the first two. So 23, something like that. So yeah, 15 for me.
I'm 1 point lower. I gave it a 14 because I didn't think the villains were as strong. And one thing also this reminded me of was, I don't know if you agree with me, but like the police stories, right? We had 1, 2, and 3, which was really good. Then part 4, which First Strike just took a nosedive to like Mr. Magoo of cops. And I felt like, I hope we're not doing that with these type of movies, because then I'm gonna be like annoyed, like why? Such a good movie foundation.
Start. Imagine if Ip Man, because this is like basically the forerunner of like the Ip Man movies.
Right.
Those movies are just about a guy. And this guy, he's real. He's historical. He's an actual Wong Fei Hung or whatever. He's real. So this is like and imagine if in Ip Man 3 or 4, all of a sudden he's like saying weird jokes and they totally change. That's kind of, I agree. I hope that 4 is not that, but we'll see. We still got 3 left. We're only halfway through, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I will say this though: we have 3 more left, which I'm still looking forward to. I hope it's not trending the way that I hope it's not, but 3 was okay. It's the fluff right now. Yeah. It hit a little dead peak. I'm okay with it. Jet Li's still fast in his fighting, but
he's not in the next 2, so he doesn't come back till 6. So
he's not in the next 2.
Got a different. The character is still in the movie, but it's played by a different guy.
Oh,
so
are we getting that transported?
Well, let's just talk about it now. So the next movie up is Once Upon a Time in China 4. Wong Fei Hung is played by Vincent Zhao, so it's a different actor, but he's playing the same character. The only 2 returning characters are Foon, our boy, played by Max Mock again. Foon will be back, and also Clubfoot from this movie is back. 13th Aunt is not in this next one. Jet Li is not in this next. I'm just gonna call her 13th Aunt. I know that's not her name. It's Rosamund something. But But now we have 14th Aunt.
No,
I'm not lying. Aunt May. But on another thing, it labeled her as 14th Aunt. So I don't know if.
Oh no!
I don't know. We got it, and a different director. This is the first one that is directed by someone else other than Sui Hark, or however we say his name. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Anyway, that's what's coming up next franchise-wise. And then, of course, next in our 1 movie or 1 word titles, and actually the last in that series, it's going to be a movie called Nobody from 2020, I think?
2021.
Something like that. All right, so that's the next 2 we got coming.
Question before we wrap this up. Is the action choreographer still Wing Wu Pi?
No. And it wasn't in this movie either.
I could tell the difference in the fighting.
You definitely can. This is a different fight choreographer.
Wing Hu Ping.
Yuen Wo Ping.
Yeah.
No, this one, it has director of Bun Yuen. I don't know who that is. And it does say here, a new director. Oh, he is the director and action choreographer for this movie. So the guy who directed the next one also directed the action choreography. He's doing double duty.
All right.
We'll see how it goes. Double duty.
We'll see. We'll see. Man, I don't know if he can do my man Master Ping. I don't know.
I'm worried, and I'm just giving you guys a spoiler alert now. I don't check the Rotten Tomatoes scores in advance, but this one doesn't even have one, so we won't even have that for the next movie.
Oh,
it
boy.
has no reviews, so we're gonna be the first people on Earth to review this movie.
It's gonna be like the X versus Sever.
Our take will be the only take.
Pretty much. All right, with that said, guys, you guys want to follow us in our social media accounts, please follow Nate over on Instagram at NateFlixReviews. Check out the podcast podcast with him and his friends called Netflix Movie Reviews. Anything AMG Podcast. You guys can follow us on YouTube at Action Movie Guys. You guys can subscribe, listen to your podcast there on your computer, or take us on the go with the AMG Podcast, Action Movie Guys Podcast on Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast on. Other than that, we're on TikTok. You guys can follow our Geeks and Flicks TikTok account now. We do mini reviews, minor reviews there. Nate does his 1-minute movie theater reviews that he does not post full reviews of on the YouTube channel. So you get exclusive reviews there on TikTok and, of course, on his Instagram page. Other than that, I'm your host, Alex Figueroa. My co-host is
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
Be awesome to each other and geek out.